What's up, guys? It's your boy Brap Genius. Today I'm going to teach you guys how to ride a leader bike. Alright, so this video is geared more for people that are trying to learn on a leader bike than anything else. But, you know, just if you're thinking about a leader bike too, if you already have one, just some stuff to be aware of, you know, while riding this bike. This is a 2005 GSXR 1000, just so you guys know. So first thing, you know, we got to go over what everything is, because like I said, I'm assuming you haven't ridden before and you're just going to say screw it and go for it, go for a leader bike to start. This is your ignition. This is how you turn on the bike. GSXRs, you have to pull in this. This is the clutch. This is what's going to allow you to shift gears, which down here, this is your gear shifter, and it goes 1, neutral, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a 6-speed bike. So there's that. This is your throttle. That's what gives it gas, and this is what you need to be extremely careful with, especially on a 1000, because that's where you're going to get yourself into trouble. You got your your front brake is right up here. Your rear brake is down here. What else? You know, you got your hazards here. These are your turn signals, left, right, your high beams. Your kill switch is up here, and to start the bike, you got the starter right there. So those are basically the main parts of the bike that you're going to need to know before you ride. So let's get into the actual riding. Alright, so before anything else, you want to just sit on the bike and learn where everything is. Especially on a leader bike, you don't want to just jump on it and try and go off and start riding, especially if you've never ridden anything. So just play with the clutch. You know, clutch, you're going to want to let it out slow when you're giving it gas, and what you're going to want to do is, in combination with the throttle, you know, let out the clutch as you're in gear. You're going to have to put it in gear. You're normally going to start out in neutral, and you don't have to have the clutch in for that while you're just chilling, but to start the bike, some bikes, it depends on the bike, you're going to have to pull in the clutch to turn it on. So we're going to do that right now. So key on. I'm going to pull the clutch in all the way, and then that starter button right there, you're just going to push that. So now the bike started. It's in neutral, so you can let out the clutch, but if the bike was in gear and you let out the clutch, it would stall, so you don't want to do that. So I'm just going to realign myself, and then I'm going to tell you guys what to do. So many rocks here. I didn't pick the best spot to do this, but whatever. Okay. So anyway, what you're going to want to do is, down there's your shifter, you're going to want to pull in the clutch, and down you want to push down. So like I said, it's down 1, 5 up. So now you're in gear. With a 1000, be extremely careful with the throttle. If you've never ridden a 1000 or you've never ridden a bike, extremely careful with the throttle. Otherwise, you're going to loop out. You got to let out the clutch slowly, and you're just going to feel it. You know, just a little bit of gas. You could hear the engine rev up a little bit. You can see on the RPM gauge. And just let out the clutch slowly, so. Just like that. And just move forward just a little bit. Don't be ready to fly and take off down the street. Just practice letting it go. Just moving forward just a little bit. Couple steps, have your feet on both sides, and just walk the bike. Preferably do this in a parking lot or somewhere like this where you're not going to have any traffic. And just nice and easy. Just like that. Once you get comfortable doing that, you're going to want to step up to the next step, which is going to actually just, you know, letting the clutch out all the way and riding. You know, with this bike, you're really not going to have to shift gears until, like, comfortably, for the bike where it's comfortable at is like 35 to 45 miles an hour is where I shift in a second on this bike. 1000s, you know, they have higher gearing, so you don't have to shift as much. But so you would just let out the gas, or let out the clutch, I'm sorry, while giving it gas until it's out all the way, and you can let out the clutch. And just practice going slow. Nice 10-15 miles an hour. and just get a feel for what it's like being on the bike. You know, you can start on a 1000. I don't really suggest it, especially if you've never ridden anything. If you've been riding dirt bikes your whole life, you probably can do it. It's not a smart idea, but it can be done, you know. It's been done before, it'll be done again. So like I said, just get comfortable with just riding, you know, feeling it out. To brake, you got your brake up here, your brake down there. You want to pull in the clutch and just lightly hit both of those. That would be the next thing I say to practice. Is just get a feel, you know, you move forward a little bit and then pull in the clutch and just lightly hit the brakes. Most of your stopping power on these bikes is on your front brake, so you want to use your front brake more than your rear. If you push the rear too hard, you're going to lock it up and slide, and if you're going to have to pick one over the other, if you're panicking, front brake. And do not whiskey throttle. You know, like I said, look how much throttle that is. That's a tiny bit. That's how much I'm giving it, you know, to move. A tiny bit. As if you go any more, it's just going to take off on you, you know what I mean? And if you've never ridden a leader bike, or, you know, you've never ridden anything, you're not going to be ready for that. So like I said, just practice. The next thing you're going to want to do is practice shifting gears. So I'm going to put it back into neutral. Just kidding, that's second. There we go. So like I said, it's 1, neutral, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for now, you're not really going to be able to get into those higher gears, because to do that, you're going to have to be going like, you know, 80, 90 to really have the bike be sitting comfortably in 6th gear. So I recommend, for now, just stick to, you know, shifting into second. You can shift into second under like 30. I mean, you know, the bike's, that's not the end of the world, you know, it would be happier shifting, I feel, at like 35. So like I said, so just showing you as you're going, you'd go down into first, you know, ride out like you normally do, right? Just do that. And then when you're ready to shift again, you pull in the clutch while you're riding, and you just move up. You just click one click up. Now you're in second. This bike has a gear indicator, so it tells you. And after this, I'll get onto the highway and show you, you know, what it's just like riding in general. So you're going whatever, right? So clutch in and click up with your foot. Now you're in second. And again, just practice this. I would recommend practicing this for a while. I'm just gonna do it shorter. One, because I'm running out of road. I could turn back around, but you guys get the point. I'm not gonna keep going back and forth, because you guys already know what to do. I would say practice that for a long time and just practice braking. When you're coming down to a stop, clutch in, shift back down into first, and both hands on the brake. Hit both brakes. Okay? And then you can let out from first. See, I just shifted into second. It's like 40 degrees out. And then you're just going to practice doing that. The main thing with the 1000s, if you have ridden other bikes before, you know, most of them are a lot, not a lot, but they're heavier than 600, so they're not as flickable in the turns. You have to push back and forth. You have to push more, on the bars to actually be able to turn. Then the other thing is, obviously, you know, there's a lot more power on these bikes, so you just have to be aware of that. So you're riding, shift into second, shift into third, shift into fourth, you know. Like I said, really to get into the higher RPMs, to be able to shift into like 5th and 6th gear, you really got to be moving. I'm not really going to be able to do that here. But so for turns, you want to push the direction you're going. It's called counter steering. So all you want to do, if you want to go right, you push forward on the right bar and kind of just lean sideways with it. Alright, I'll get off the highway. Downshifting is the next thing. So you kind of want to rev match, which what that is, you want the RPMs to be equivalent with what gear you're in. So when you're slowing down, you don't want to be in those higher RPMs. The higher gears, you want to shift down. So now I'm in 2nd gear. Let's say I'm slowing down. There's no one behind me, so I can slow down, right? Say I'm coming up to make a turn, so you got to shift down like I just did. So you pull the clutch in, and now you go down a notch, right? So it's literally the opposite of shifting up. Shift up in a second, shift up in a third. It's really, it's not that hard, it just takes practice, you know? And the shifting is what I would say you need to practice the most. You know, stalling motorcycles, it's gonna happen probably if you've never ridden before. If you're in dirt bikes, you're gonna have a good sense of what you're doing. So you're not really gonna have to worry about it. So, you know, again, no one behind me, downshifting again, pulling the clutch, down to gear. And you wanna give it throttle to match, you know, the RPMs where you're at. If you've ridden 600s before and you're upgrading to a 1000, you know, do you. Just understand that it has a lot more power than the bike that you're on now, and you got to respect it. You know, I've had this bike for like 8 months, so I'm still not used to the power on it. You know, still throws me off whenever I go full throttle. This thing will power wheelie in first and second gear, shifting, you know, if you're full throttle, so just be aware of that too. That's pretty much it, guys. So do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and more videos to come. Have a great day, guys. Peace.